Hello, and welcome. I am Matthew Woodget, Go Narrative. Every Friday, we pick a company and I tear down their homepage to find exactly where their story breaks. Today, we have Pylon, B2B customer support, 1,500 customers, backed by Anderson and Bain, and a logo wall that reads like a who's who of the entire AI industry. Did the person or people who wrote the homepage get the same story? Let's go. Righty-ho, somewhere in your company right now, someone is writing the next thing. Might be you. A landing page, a one-pager, a follow-up email, and it all ships on Monday. And they were at the all hands. Of course you were. They were at the all hands. They read the deck. They know the customers. They can name the category. They have every possible fact that they need. They know the product. They know how it works. And still, for some reason, they still reach for the last thing that shipped. Why? Well, nobody ever gave them the principle that is behind or underneath the facts. Today, I'm looking at a page that makes a promise in the biggest words on the screen, but says something entirely different elsewhere on the page. And the company can't blame a copywriter. The failure mode today is decision leak. A company decides something's real. A founder decides the direction, the mission, the vision, the purpose. Why the company is doing what it does. What it's trying to change in the world. It's why we're all in this, isn't it? And then, in at least one other place, something is subtly undermining that. And that's the best case, that it's subtle. We see this show up very publicly in web pages, home pages in particular. And that is exactly why we do these teardowns. But what makes things worse is it's not entirely obvious. It's not some opposite claim, something completely different. Those things get spotted. It's not dramatic. It's just off, and slightly off at that. Just enough so that when it's repeated and repeated and repeated, things get blurry and the company gets blurry. What does it cost? Well, I'll tell you what it costs. And it's more insidious than people realize. A buyer reads the top of the page, forms a picture, keeps going, and the picture softens. The why softens. But it's not just a picture in their head. that's not the only thing that's softening. That's the problem. It's the reason to care at all. And they are not going to email you about it. You're not going to get a customer support call about it. They aren't going to ask you, hey guys, what version is it? Nobody is going to argue with something vague on a web page. Worse yet, we see that spread beyond just the web page itself. In fact, when things are vague and people are confused, that undermines their ability to argue anyway. Employees will reach for something established. Customers and prospects, they're just going to move on. And the thing that isn't traveling, the thing that we're looking at here that isn't traveling, isn't just the facts. The facts exist. They're in the deck, they're in the white paper, the all hands, the product information page, the forums. Anyone can find the how, the what, if they want to look for them. And that's where the problem is. If the picture is blurry, looking for them becomes a chore. And what do we know about that, my peeps? In this day and age, people are going to give up. They're going to move on to something else. People do not have a high tolerance for things that become a chore. What doesn't travel when things are blurry is why you're doing this in the first place. In fact, that is what's making it blurry. A lack of clarity in the why creates that blurriness. And that carries what you're actually trying to make happen. The why, it carries those facts. It carries what you're trying to make happen in the world. That impact that we talked about, right? We all want to make. And that carries the fact. Facts need a reason to care. Blurry means people can't see. If they can't see why they should care. This is what a photocopy, if you remember those, a photocopy of a photocopy looks like. Nobody made a specific mistake. Every pass was reasonable, but each pass got made from the copy instead of from the original. And by the time it reaches the far end, every edge has gone soft. Did the people or the person who wrote the page that we are going to look at in a moment get the same story? Without further ado, here we go. Pylon. Use pylon.com. Here's what we see. You're seeing it, I'm seeing it. Here's what anyone sees in 5 seconds. Above the headline, which is actually kind of hidden. Interesting. There we go. Above the headline, 4 words. The agentic support platform. Then we've got support at light speed. And then Pylon lets humans and agents collaborate on customer work, investigating, resolving, and acting on every signal. As we go down a bit further, we see trusted by 1,500 customers. Cognition, Linear, Airtable, Together AI, Bastian, LangChain. Before we go any further, I have to say, this is a good business with real proof. I am not taking the company apart. Kudos to Pylon. I am taking the page apart. And the page is just one place where the why, the how, and the what of this company shows up. Something is making this work for now. But something is going wrong between the principles driving this company and what we see on this page. There's good news and there's bad news. Which do you want first? The bad news? The good news? Answers on a postcard? Pull up the chat window. Here we go. Drop your answers in the chat. Good news or bad news? I am going to pick bad news because then we can have the good news, right? So the good news and the bad news, right? The bad news is I would wager good money that these symptoms, what we're seeing showing up here, are showing up elsewhere. The good news, please, the good news. The good news is it's completely fixable. Support at light speed. That's the promise. In the biggest type on this page, it's a speed claim. Your customer's problem gets solved fast. You move fast to solve it. I like it because I like fast. You may guess from the accoutrement of the environment that I'm in right now. I like speed. Keep it on the track, people. And you, Pylon, you help your customers move fast to solve it. It's good. Everybody, oh, come on. Think about the last time you sat on a customer service call. Think about the last time you had to get customer service and you're like, how long is this going to take? How much of my day is this going to eat up? For our friends who are outside of the United States, a great example in the United States would be healthcare. Anytime you need to get support with healthcare, we know what's coming. Slowness. So what a promise. Support at light speed. Everyone knows what slow feels like. Am I right? Like Pylon have identified that. So that's the bet. That's the intent. Speed. Now, should we have a look around the rest of the page and see if it's showing up elsewhere? Let me keep going down here. Let's see. Stop doing work. Let's see, we've got different ones here. Support customers across Slack, build and run your entire, give humans and agents full context, open any ticket to a finished investigation and follow-up questions, send agents into other systems. I'm scanning down through these. Are you seeing anything here? Stop doing the work, start directing the agents. Pylon investigates every issue before your team opens it. Direct agents to dig deeper, check other systems, handle follow-up work while your team focuses on judgment. Is speed showing up here? I'm not seeing it. This could be arguably rooted in speed, but it's wrapped in a lot of productivity, not the customer's weight, not the team's weight. It's not even about the team really moving faster. Again, apart from that potential one there. Let's see, let's keep going down here. Assist agent, background agent, turn raw customer data into usable intelligence. And under it, we've got, let's see, build support, account and product intelligence across conversations, CRM, product usage, logs, and code. Then make it available via MCP to your agents and team. Every word of that's true. That's why the company's got to where it is today. And combined with a heck of a lot of burning the midnight oil and a heck of a lot of the founder being in every single room, making sure that as much of this gets built and that the customers understand what they're buying. We're looking at the shape of this. What did that headline promise here? Resolving, acting on every signal, across conversations. And how does that relate to the top of the page? Support at light speed. Now let's go back down again, zoom down here, past integrations. On this entire page, there is exactly one human voice, and it's good to have them. I applaud everybody for thinking, let's make sure we've got the customer on the page. There's the obvious reasons for that. Social proof. But as we're looking at this page, we actually want to see, how is this landing out there in the real world? We've got one quote though, that's it. And think about what it costs to get this quote. Anybody who's ever tried to get a customer quote, somebody sat through a call, probably sent a form to Mike in this case at Cognition, filled it out, checked some boxes, maybe suggested some things to talk about, had a call, picked a couple of sentences, including this one, emailed Cognition, said, is it okay? Mike had to sign off. Mike's boss had to sign off. Cognition Legal had to sign off. Pylon Legal had to sign off. At least had to read it. Nothing else on this page had to clear that kind of bar. I'm not talking about the debates over the headline. This is some serious bar clearing. It might just be the most deliberate sentence that Pylon put on their homepage. But the headline, my friends, says support at light speed. And the quote says Pylon's AI agents handle the repetitive work that used to consume my day, so I can spend more time on the work that actually needs me. One of those is about how fast a customer gets their problem solved by a team who's moving fast to solve it. The other is about a support engineer and how he spends his afternoon, or how his team spends their afternoon. Both are good. Not bashing it. Not bashing it. They are not rooted. They are not of the same intent. They are not birthed from that same place. And the only piece of human proof on this page is backing something that isn't in the headline. And I can't tell you which is the real bet. Do you know which is the real bet? I would have to sit down with the founder and have a chat about this. I could see somebody saying, well, the real bet is what we went through to put on the top of the page. We had a awesome offsite, and great conversations, and speed. And I can imagine some other folks at Pylon say, well, it's all about the repetitive. This is what's different. This is what's special. Uh-oh. Which is it? Those are both reasonable arguments that could be debated and maybe have been debated. There's nothing specific that's been landed on that's fueling both of those. And that, my friends, that is a problem. Either the page is hiding it from us or it hasn't been settled. And from out here, I can't tell you which it is. I can't tell you what the intent is. I can't tell you the purpose that's driving it. You don't fix a photocopy of a photocopy by copying more carefully. You fix it by going back to the original. I'll tell you why this one is as much fun as I might appear to be having. I'll tell you why I'm not enjoying this one as much maybe. So 3 weeks ago, I locked a sentence for what I want my business to be focused on. Purpose-driven. Took me weeks to get it, including not just the week work, but the classic Founder Sunday, connecting with other founders and trusted advisors to work through the ideas. And then, and this is the bit I'm not proud of, don't worry, I'm going to come back. is I let it get softened. I started with this concept of control, then I let it become influence, and then something even softer than that. I caught myself, and we went back to the source, purpose, and changed the line that we were almost putting out, and it was aligned, it was birthed from what that purpose is. And then what my intent with this specific message, to realize that, became clear. Now, nobody did that to me. I did it to myself. And that's worth pausing on. Because as a founder, this starts with you and the buck stops with you. If you, as a founder, can't hold the line, nobody downstream has a chance of holding it. Now, why did I catch it? The only reason I caught it is that's what I do. But it still creeps up on me. This is natural. This is not something to be ashamed of. It's natural. That's why we see it happen. Last Wednesday, I nearly did the same thing again. What is this? Some kind of confessions of a narrative consultant? I had a cold email in front of me. And I was like, I hate cold emails. Let me just be very clear on that one. And when we send cold emails, our intent is very simple. This should be the warmest cold email this person has ever received. We have to have done the work. We have to understand them, their business, their challenges as much as possible so that our purpose of helping them remove these roadblocks is going to come across in that intent of that email. Trust me, when you sit down to review the cold email and you've got the intent in mind, I want to warm it up. Maybe something's not quite working. Maybe I want to make it land harder. And there was a note sitting in my own file from the purpose work that I mentioned previously that basically said, you're going to be tempted to do this. Don't do it. And I'd actually done it. The note was underneath. And I was like, oh, that's right. We don't need to harden this. We want to keep it open. We want to help them fill the space with how they feel about this challenge. We can, as peers, see what this challenge looks like. It's ultimately up to them to recognize what the impact is as it affects them, whether it's how it makes them feel, how that reflects on them as a leader. Ultimately, it's not my right to tell people that. I can show them the architecture and what the impact can potentially be. They have to fill it in. They have to put themselves in that story. That's called story making. And when we do that, we experience things and we embrace them and we get to choose what we want to do about them or not do about them. But it's our choice and we have to respect that. And that is all coming from the purpose of Go Narrative. And I went back and I read the line I'd written. I was like, nah, Matthew, that's no good. Get your grubby little mitts off it and delete that line. Because I'd written the guidance weeks earlier when I was sitting in purpose, designing for a version of me that wasn't going to be sitting in that same place. It's natural. If all of this is sounding familiar, it's because it is. It's natural. We're all juggling so much. We're all trying to solve big and small problems every single day. And this is one of the things that we have to spend our time on. It's one of the things that gets affected in the course of doing business. And I'm not going to go into all the details on why, curse of knowledge or other things, but it's very natural and it's very real. And I was right. The original me, OG me, was right. I'd wrecked the thing. The plain sentence was that trigger, that gap, so that the reader was going to be able to put themselves into it. The note wasn't about writing. The note that I read that got me to wake up and smell the coffee, it wasn't about writing. It was about staying true to something I had already decided back when I was in a better state to decide it. So here's the one thing I'll give you today, and it costs you nothing. Read it back. Read it back. Not your decision, the output. Careful in reading back the decision. You could iterate till the cows come home. But once you've locked on that decision, read the output. Your homepage, read it top to bottom. One sitting, out loud. Not the section you're proud of, not the update that was just made, the whole thing. In order, in one go. Deciding more carefully won't save you. Slow decisions drift too. The only place drift ever shows up is in what comes out the other side. So we have to act, we have to create, and then we have to make sure we are creating from a place of purpose. The things that we're creating have an intent that aligns with that purpose, and that ultimately all of those things come together in principled work that matches what we're trying to do. This is about us being the best us that we want to be, that we've said we're going to be, the change we're going to make in the world. This isn't something outside. This isn't some extra thing that you need to add and think about. This is about something that you are already doing and about doing it better, building the muscle. We've got the muscles. We go to the gym and we can build them. We can treat them well. We can help ourselves be healthier by working well and smart on what we've got. The person who's writing the next thing, that thing that's shipping on Monday, the thing that had all your facts, read it back. That is how you will find out what they did with those facts. So I've got two questions for you. Number one, when did you last read your homepage top to bottom? One sitting, again, out loud. I'll guess it wasn't this quarter. And that isn't you being lazy. That's not what I'm saying. You don't read your homepage. You check it. You open it to look at the section that's been updated, product launch, the event thing, blah, 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 new blog. You fix that section, or you mandate your team to. You close the tab, you move on with your busy day. Everybody in your company does the same thing. Even the folks who are responsible for it, if you're at a stage where you've got a team doing that. You may be using AI. And that's a guaranteed way to compound this problem if you don't have the purpose set. So the page has been read piece by everyone and various AI agents. And people aren't looking at the whole thing holistically. That's not a discipline problem. That's just what a homepage does to the people who own it problem. It's real. We've all lived it. And that's the simple thing we're talking about here. What would you say if I asked you my second question? And my second question is, what do people in your company keep almost getting right? Not wrong, almost right. The thing you keep having to adjust, the deck that's 90% there, the answer on a call that's technically correct and somehow isn't your company. It's not what you want to be landing. Whatever came into your head just then is not a training problem, and it isn't the person. It's a place where something in your head never made it into the environment. It was never drawn out, checked, prioritized, written down on paper to be that first copy. So your team are working from what they can see. And when what they can see is the last thing that shipped or the latest enthusiastic comments from you as a founder on this week's call or at this all hands, the latest thing that you're excited about, that is what's going to end up shipping. And as we saw today, that can cause a divergence. Maybe speed is the most important thing for Pylon. At least one other place on that page, and there's more we saw, but at least one breaks that, and we no longer know what it is. And that creates that blurriness that we were talking about earlier. Okay, 2 questions. That was it. If you can't answer the first one, start there. If you answered the second one instantly, you already know where your story is thin. At the start, I said somebody in your company, maybe you, is writing the next thing right now. They were at the all hands. They have the facts. What they might not have is the principle underneath those facts. And when we see what we saw today, and when you go look at your webpage and you see that, those are the effects. The interim to what the true effect is going to be. The effect on the website is that interim effect, but the true effect is going to be the people who move on. And when you as a founder are in most of the big sales calls, when you're in every room, you're holding all this together. But as you grow, as that 1,500 customers turns to 2,000 to 3,000, as growth gets bigger and bigger and bigger, as you may well want it to do, I'm guessing that's probably a big double thumbs up from the founder of Pylon, is it gets harder and harder. And if you don't have it drawn out and written down, you're going to end up making promises in the biggest words on your page, and the customer quotes that you put up there are going to end up not connecting to that, just like we saw today. Or it might be another part of the page, right? As I mentioned, we did look through several areas when we were hunting for that speed thing. Nobody did it on purpose. They didn't do it because there wasn't a clear purpose. Double negative. That's why. Clarify the purpose, clarify their ability to see, make it specific, make it repeatable, root it in that purpose, build that intent, make it principled. And then when you ask the question, did the person or people who wrote the page get the same story? The answer will be yes. And that, my friends, is the work that I do. I sit with the founder and I draw out their words, not mine, until 3 things are straight. Why you're doing what you're doing this, why you're doing it at all, what you're trying to make happen in the world, and what has to stay true while everybody else works out how. Then I build the ways those get carried, and I coach and train directly one-on-one so that you can do it. This isn't about just having the document. It's about a document that represents how you communicate and how you communicate this in the document. It is a reinforcing cycle. It's making sure that your own training data is good, if you will, so that those principles survive being written by other people, because you rely on other people, like I said, or even AI. AI can go even further off-piste than a human being. And here's the test for whether it worked. Somebody opens the document 6 months later, and they don't read it like a marketing artifact. They think, that's what she said. That's what she said at the all hands. That's the bar. Not whether the document's good. We've all seen a lot of good content recently. It's whether the team recognizes you in it, recognizes your intent. So you, as a founder, are never absent, even when you are. If you want that done to your page, book the narrative diagnostic, and we will do exactly what we did today with Pylon for you. Link is, here we go. You've got, go to gonarrative.com and you click on the top right button. One conversation, and you'll know which of your sentences your company is actually using, and you'll have the opportunity to start making sure that everything is aligned. And if you never book anything, read it back out loud, one sitting. That one's free and it works. Trust me. Let me know how that goes. I love the Q&A that we get on these as well. It brings that additional perspective that is so important to this, because this is all about how we interpret and how we communicate about these really important things that we're trying to do in the world. So let's have a look, and let's have a look and see what questions we got coming in. Pull up the chat, see what we got. Let us see. Ooh. Let us. Here we go. This is about that customer quote. The guy is a head of support engineering. Of course he talks about his own workload. Why? What did you expect him to say? In a previous life, I managed customer stories for some of the biggest companies in the world. It's quite funny to think back to those days. It's fair. It's a fair question. And it's exactly what he should have said. He was asked about his job and he answered honestly. There's nothing wrong with the quote. But he wasn't the person who chose to put it on the homepage. Somebody at Pylon put it on the homepage. They sat with a transcript. They picked the sense out of it. If they did what I used to do back in the day, they actually would have suggested some topics to talk about. Maybe talk about where everything's sped up. Whatever, right? The person from Pylon then picked it out, got permission, decision, and got it signed off from the customer, got signed from legal, got it signed, boom, on the homepage. So the question isn't what he said, it's what got chosen from what he said and how that dialogue and how that conversation went. This specific example doesn't take rocket science. That's why you just heard me say what you could potentially do. I'm not here to solve the problem. Whether the person choosing it had the information that they needed, whether they had the headline, whether they had the purpose behind the headline to make sure that they were choosing the right thing to get up onto the web page. Next question. I'm going to take another one that is, it feels like an on the nose question. You've never built support software. What makes you qualified to say what their promise should be? Nothing. And I'm not saying it. I didn't offer a promise. I don't know what theirs should be. I would have to sit down with the CEO of Pylon and have a conversation about that, wouldn't I? Pylon wrote the headline. Pylon picked the quote. Both are in their own words on their homepage, public space. All I did was read and notice that the two don't say the same thing. I don't need to know anything about support software to see that. I need to be able to read. So nice try with the on the nose question. Some great questions today. Here's another one. 1,500 customers and money from A60, that's Anderson Horowitz. If the page were broken, they wouldn't be growing. Doesn't the traction disprove all of this? It proves the company works as it is right now, how it's being run right now. It doesn't prove the page works, and those are different tests. And my warning is the impacts. I already talked about growth. Where has the growth come from so far? People, founders in shared Slack channels. We saw the company names. Word of mouth in a tight industry. Investors making introductions. Innovators, early adopters. That's the strongest way there is to grow at the start. And it's also the one that hides this problem longest, because a person is there to say the cutting, precise, sharp version out loud every single time. And it's often the founder. And that builds expectations. It's okay. Founder's always going to step in and do this. Tell you what arrives a little bit later on, my friends, is the bill. I ain't going to sit here talking about all of the startups that have failed, the Series A's that have then crashed and burned, the Series B's have then crashed and burned. Failure is more common than not. And the cost here is going to arrive when the page has to do the work on its own. For somebody nobody at the company has ever met. And remember, the web page, your homepage is one place where you're interfacing with the world. The more you grow, the bigger you get, the more of that surface area you have. And the more chickens are going to come home to roost on this one. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Ooh, how about this one? I'm glad to see this question. You're listening. How do I know if my page has this or if it's just a normal amount of mess? I empathize with that word, mess. Read it top to bottom, out loud, one sitting. Write down the promise each section is making. Not what it says, what it's promising. If they're all making the same promise in different words, you are golden, my friend. If you end up with 3 different promises, your buyer is going to pick whichever one they land on first, or whichever one speaks to how their day is going, and you don't get to choose that. That'll take you 4 minutes, tops. Do it before lunch, before happy hour. Get it done. Let me know how you get on. And then we've got some Twitch random spammy questions. Let's skip that. What those ones? Oh, I feel the pain with these types of questions. How should I pick a testimonial? What makes a good one? I'm not going to tell you what your quote should be, because the whole point is it has to be theirs. But I'll give you the question I would ask. So take that promise, the work that you just did. Look at the promise in your headline and then ask, if that promise is true, what would my best customer say about it? Not what did they say, what would they say? I want to give you a second to Think about that. Not what did they say, not what has been said before. That's the photocopy of the photocopy. What would they say if the promise of that headline were landing for them, if they were getting what that promise is? That question tells you what to go ask on the next call, and you'll be pleasantly surprised what comes out of it. Most companies will gather quotes and then go looking for a place to put them. Do it the other way around. Know what you want that quote to prove, with it, the intent of that quote, before you go and get it. You will be, boom, you'll be in a really sweet spot. You guys are just flooding me with the best questions today, even the challenging ones. This one, having been through the trenches of marketing myself, I run a company and worked at some of the biggest companies in the world. Certain questions, just there's something about the history of life that resonates. My team writes most of our copy. How do I check it without approving every sentence? You don't. You would never keep up. Oh my goodness. We've all known micromanagers, though, that have tried to do that, and you can't keep up, and you'd make everybody worse at it. Anybody who's been micromanaged knows what the impact of that is. Good leadership is not breathing down somebody's neck. You read the finished thing back on a schedule, out loud, whole, not the draft, the thing that shipped. You trust your people. You hired them to do a job. They're good people. And when something's off, don't fix a sentence. Ask what the person was missing that led them to write it, and write it down. Fixing the sentences buys you one sentence. Writing it down was what missing buys you every sentence after it. And figuring out what the purpose is going to solve all of that. It's going to ensure that the intent of the quote, the headline, the paragraph, the product page, all of that aligns to that purpose that you have been clear about. Oh, this is a doozy. And this is one that comes in different shapes and forms. I always expect a prospective customer of ours actually to ask a similar type of question, or more like, if we do this work. And this one is, we did the narrative work. Good for you. Round of applause. We wrote the whole document. It didn't stick. What did we get wrong? In all truth, that's a pretty open-ended question. I would need a lot more information to tell you exactly what you got wrong. Probably nothing wrong with the document. Documents on their own don't stick. That isn't what they're for. They're a vehicle. They're a thing. They need to convey something else. And that something isn't just a thing, it's a why, it's a purpose. A document will do one thing really well, right? It makes you able to tell when something is off, because it's a baseline, right? It's real, it's worth having, and you can refer to it and be reminded. Let's say I'm responsible for creating the copy of the web page, and I have this strategic narrative that the company's created. If I go and read that, glance over it, because I've read it before, and I'm like, that's what she was saying at the all hands. Boom. The document is triggering that. It's validating. See what I'm saying there? It means I can tell when something's on or off, because I've got that reminder. And that's valuable. It's really useful. But it can't defend itself once people start writing from it, because they work from what they can see, and what they can see is often the last thing that shipped. And if the last thing that shipped is incongruent with what's in that narrative, you can see why that's a problem, and it's what we've been talking about today. What actually carries the story is everything around the document. It's the conversations, the rules for how decisions get made, the sales language, the onboarding, the story that people repeat because they liked it. If you built the document and nothing else, you built the reference and nothing to carry it. That's why, as an example, after we do a 4-week narrative accelerator, we come back in 4 weeks and say, okay, tell us what you're saying today. And that should be a check, because in the process, like I said earlier, it's about drawing out that purpose, that figuring out from that purpose what the intent is going to be, or all the things, so that everything we do is built from the same principles. It's not about us waving a creative go narrative magic wand. That's not where our magic is. Not that we don't employ creativity as a tool. We do. We also employ drawing out what we need to know, and we have a very specific way that we do that. And that is where we build and check, make sure the boxes are getting checked, so that when 4 weeks later, after the 4 weeks, what's said back should be what that purpose represents. Doesn't have to be exactly the same words, but it has to be rooted in the same thing, not a photocopy of a photocopy. So you've got that narrative. Go back to it, look at what you need to do around it to make sure that adoption's happening. And it might be that it was created outside of some of the stuff I just talked about, and therefore it actually isn't doing the job that it can do, and that's a slightly different problem. Let me know how you get on. Time for one more question. Let me see. Here we go. It's a fun one to end on. How do you pick who goes on the show? Are these clients or people you want to be clients? There was similar. Did you tell companies? Okay, yeah. So sometimes they are. Sometimes these are companies I would love to work with, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. That's why I do what I do. I love helping people, and I know the power of a certain part of how we communicate and how we exist as humans, and how to use that to help people. And I love technology, and I love innovators and people who are trying to solve big problems, like what Pylon are doing. And so there's some people that I would love to work with, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. It doesn't change what I say about what we see on these teardowns. And with that, my friends, forget not that you can book a narrative diagnostic, look at your webpage, figure out what's going on, and get that glimpse of how you can actually start making sure the top of the page, the bottom of the page, the sales calls, all of it, as a founder, you're in the room even when you're not in the room. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you with another teardown next week. Bye for now.